In this video, we're going to be looking at how to execute the perfect hip thrust. We'll be looking at the different variations, but above all, we'll be looking at how to set up heavy hip thrust and how to get to heavy hip thrust. And I know one thing or two about heavy hip thrust since I managed to hip thrust 220 kilos, I think it's 480 pounds. Let me tell you, it is heavy. So today I'm going to be explaining how I do it, how to set it up, and how to get to that point as well. But first things first, we need to understand the basics of hip thrust. We need to make sure you're doing them correctly. If you're a beginner and if you've never done hip thrust before, today is what I'll be covering. But if you're interested in the more advanced tips and tricks that I'll be giving about hip thrust, maybe skip through later on in the video. But it's always good to go over everything and making sure that you do everything correctly. So the first thing as a beginner is choosing the right box or bench. Now, you can either use a plyo box like this, a soft box, which I personally think is much more comfortable, or you can also use a bench. However, the problem with some benches is that you can't lower them, and a bench sometimes can be too high. You want to pick either a box or a bench. Let me show you exactly what I mean so you can see. Where it comes about to your bra strap level or the bottom of your scapula over here, okay? So it's where you normally have your bra strap, okay? That's where you should be, or look at me as a reference. It's literally just at the bottom of my scapula over here. Now, the problem with some benches is that because they're higher, they honestly cause you to climb up on them first. At first glance, you can see how much it's putting it next to each other. You can see that this is higher, you see? That's me. See, it's higher, much higher. Now, I actually wanted to prove it to you as well. So you see how I can't just come on and off it. I have to actually climb up now in order to have it at my bra strap level at the bottom of my scapula, and then come back up. If I wanted to drop the weight, it's almost like I'm descending down something. It could work if you're doing light weights, okay? But if you're doing a really heavy weight like I normally do, then I also recommend getting used to a lower surface in general as well. So again, this is where it is, and I have to climb up so that it's where my bra strap is again, and do it. So the first step is really making sure that you're comfortable where you'll be lying against. So choosing the right box or bench is absolutely crucial, okay? Look how easily I can come and off it with no weight at all. So that's me. I don't have to climb up, you see? I can come and off and on with such ease. Instead, if something was too high, I would have to climb up, okay? Next thing, once we're sat against it, we need to find out where do we position our feet, right? And I want you to take your knee as a point of reference, okay? So that's your knee. I'll put my finger here so that I know where it was. And I'll put my heel exactly where my knee was as a point of reference. Do the same with the other leg, okay? And this should give you the perfect stance for your glutes, okay? Now, you can play with the position in terms of rotating your feet a little bit more outwards, maybe taking a slightly bigger stance, see what works for you. I always recommend trialing it. So, let's start first with a normal stance that you prefer, okay? We go up. Feels quite comfortable, okay? Now let's start slightly wider. That feels a bit uncomfortable, so I actually prefer this stance for me. So you have to trial and test what works best for you, because some people will prefer a wider stance, some people are more narrow ones, some people with the toes out. So your job is to find out what works best for you in terms of your genetics and your body composition, because what works for some cannot work for others. So now, once we know our stance, okay, we have a stance and everything, now we need to understand the movement. How does the movement start? So we have our stance here, okay? Now, we need to lift our hips towards the ceiling. That is the second thing. However, there is a little twist that you need to understand when it comes to hip thrust. Now, you will think to just bring your hips up. However, by doing so, just bringing your hips to the ceiling, you will tend to feel it in your lower back. Okay, that is why a lot of people actually tend to feel it on the lower back, because they don't know how to scoop. What the hell is scooping, Chiara? Let me just explain it to you. Very quickly, I'll show you how it looks. So that's me standing straight. Let me just go a bit more backwards so that you can see me. So that's me standing straight, yes? Now, what do you do when you stick your bum out to make it pop a little bit more? You just push your glutes down, don't you? Just a little duck, just looking like a little duck, don't you? Right, I want you to do the opposite of this. Instead, you want your glutes to look smaller, almost like, and bringing them in. So what do? From here, that's me pushing it up, just making my bum stick out, to here. I'm squeezing my glutes, my cheeks are clenching together, okay? And squeezing as hard as I can. So I'm scooping, okay? So again, let me just come closer so that you can see. That's me standing straight. That's me having the duck pose, okay? And now that is me scooping. You see what is happening here? It's forming a sort of scoop with my hips over here. Can you see it? Now let's do it from me standing straight, okay? That's me scooping. You see what's happening here? My spine is basically coming inwards. And I want you to practice this. You can practice in the mirror how to do this before you do a hip thrust, because it's crucial and to understand this in order not to get lower back pain. So you start already by bringing your bum inwards, tucking your pelvis in. So from this to this, you start the movement like so, and you push and squeeze your glutes to the ceiling. That's what you want to do. And you stop over here, okay? So this is the perfect lockout, okay? You don't want to come up too high, because you see what's happening here? I'm overextending my spine. So if you start the movement by already tucking your pelvis in and squeezing your glutes up, okay? So what am I doing? I like to say to my clients as well when I explain this, pretend that you're a bee, okay? And you want to sting someone, okay? What do? You kind of like tuck your pelvis in as well with like the little thingy, what's it called, the needle, to sting people. So you kind of do this, don't you? You kind of like want to sting the person, right? So that is actually a great way to understand how to posterior pelvic tilt, which is key not to feel it in your lower back. Now, let's tuck our pelvis in. So form that inward scoop, okay? We come up, and that's it. That's how far you come until your body is parallel to the floor. Amazing. Now the next thing is to keep your chin tucked in. So imagine, instead of looking up while you do this, okay, I want you to keep looking forward. So chin tucked in and look forward at all times. Now, let's repeat everything again to go over it. Again, let's select the right box. We see that is the right height for us. Perfect. Now, next thing, we figure out the stance. So that's my knee. That's where I'll be putting my heel. Amazing. I come up, squeezing my glutes up, and with that posterior pelvic tilt, looking forward the whole time. Congratulations. Congratulations, you've just done a hip thrust. Now, if you want to target your quads and hamstrings, you will go all the way down, okay? This is the normal, regular hip thrusts. However, if you wanted to make it slightly more glute dominant, you stop halfway. That is what is called a calf glute bridge, okay? Calf glute bridge, I'll stop here. So half the way, not touching the floor, and come up again. Now let's try it with a weight straight away, okay? I want you to push yourself once you understand the form and how it works. Okay, we'll have our dumbbell here. We put it just above our hip area and we hold it with our hands, okay? Same principle applies, back against the box. We have our stance, okay? I already know how to figure out mine because now it's second nature, but you do the thing with the knee. Lift up, look forward the whole time, go up, go down, and up again. Squeezing my glutes. So the movement comes from squeezing your glutes. That is the point. Onto bigger weights and graduating to the barbell. Let's see it downstairs, how to do this. Obviously we start from having a normal barbell. Just count that some barbells, depending how long they are, they can be more or less heavy. So this barbell is 20 kilos. So the longest, normally at the gym, they weigh 20 kilos, so bear that in mind. Then the shorter it gets, we always have a 15 kilos and a 10 kilos as well. So you'll get your plates. Now I'm setting up a really heavy weight, but you can start off from any weight. You can add 5s, you can add 10s. The only thing I recommend is if you do decide to add plates, the best thing to always do is to choose plates that are bigger. Okay, what does it mean? Let's put these against each other. So we've got a 20 kilo plate here and a 10 kilo plate. You can see that obviously visibly this is much higher. And why do we prefer something like this? I'll show you in a minute, especially when we get the barbell in. But if we put something that is so small, when you try to get your barbell on top of you, it will really hurt you. You won't be able to get your barbell on top of you at all. Instead, if you have something that elevates the barbell much higher, you can just roll it on top of you, if it makes sense. You can start building the barbell at this point. So I'm not going my super heaviest weight, because this is just a demonstration for you. So we start building up. So the first 2 plates are normally the most annoying ones, but it gets better. One of these like little plates that you find at the gym, and that will help you elevate the barbell. Now, this is elevated now, okay? So you can pull up all the plates just by sliding them in, okay? So let me just show you the difference without using this, how much harder it is instead. So it'll be much harder. You can pull it towards it. So it's just so much more effort. I'll try to really get it in, okay? And you can do it this way, but it's just more effort, okay? Now let's see the trick with the plate instead. What we do, you can see the plate over here. Okay, we want to elevate this. So we get it on top, like so. Okay, and now we can slide on the plate. Because this is elevated, you can just slide it on straight away. Let me show you what I mean. Go, put the plate here, and I just slid it in, nice and easy. Okay, okay, get this on top, so just on top of this, okay? And this, with this trick, you actually be able to remove the plates much easily as well. There you go. And you slide it in nice and easy. Now, we have our box, and I grabbed 3 mats. The reason why I grabbed 3 mats is because I'm going to use this as my padding. Some people actually prefer having a bar pad, and that's okay, you can use that. However, me personally, I feel like that hurts my hip area a lot. One thing, if you're a beginner and you start hip thrusting, especially at adding a barbell and weight, you'll notice that your hip area will tend to hurt because your hip area is not used to it. And weirdly enough, this is something that your hip area will get used to. The more you do it, the less you will hurt you. But obviously using protection will always be better. So if you, whether you decide to do a bar pad or whether you want to do a mat and a bar pad together, or just the mats alone, just do what works for you. Even if you're just using the mats at the beginning, it will hurt a little bit, but you'll get, as I said, it's something that your body will get used to, if it makes sense. I know it sounds awful, but I promise you'll get used to. Now I do 220 kilos with just the mats, and it doesn't hurt my hip area at all, whereas in the beginning it did. So it's something that you can get used to it. So personally what I do, but again you can use the bar pad if you prefer, or maybe less mats and a bar pad together, combine whatever works for you. So for me, I use 3 mats, okay? So get them all level together, okay? Next to each other, and I fold them into 2. Okay, so I will use this on top of me to protect my hip area. Now, another little trick, this is not for everyone. However, if you notice that when you put your barbell on top, okay, first of all, remember we use bigger plates, we can roll our barbell with ease. It might be that this still crushes you, it feels like this is crushing you, especially if you're using mats. So 2 things you can do at this point. Get rid of 1 mat, or elevate your barbell higher up so that it doesn't crush your belly area, if it makes sense. So how do we do this? We grab 2 plates, okay, just a small plate. It could be, I grabbed here like a 5 kg plate. You can grab whatever plate you like that elevates the barbell, okay. We'll have to roll this on top, okay. So big push, and there you go, it's on top of the 2 plates. That will help it elevate, and also it's much more comfortable on you, okay. Now, before you do that, I'll have to put my mats on top of me. And remember, we apply the same principle as before, okay. So let's roll these on top, okay. Then you found the right stance for you. Remember to look forward all the time, chin tucked in, and apply that scoop method thing that I told you before, okay? Now, the thing when you start going heavier with this kind of weight, this is not really heavy for me, but let's say you're doing your heaviest weight, the heavier you go, the less reps you want to perform, okay? So you will do, a lot of people, what they made the mistake of, there is always choose a weight that can only do 8 to 10 reps, they can do 8 to 10 reps with. And that's fine, but why don't you also try go a little bit heavier, and instead of doing 10 reps of that weight, you do 5, for example, or 4. That is, I understand that it's not a lot of reps, but in time, if you keep practicing with that weight that you can only do 4 reps with, then in 2 weeks time, maybe you can do 6 reps, or in a month's time, you can do 7. In 2 months, you can do 8, and there you go. That is progressive overload. So that is a concept that is really important to apply with, especially when it comes to hip thrust, and especially because girls, I feel like with hip thrust is probably one of the exercises, or calf glute bridges is one of the exercises that is really hard to get injured with, okay? I can understand with squats you might be a little bit more apprehensive, but the worst thing that can happen if you can't lift the weight, you can just drop it down on the floor and nothing is going to happen. There's not really a big range of motion as well, because the barbell just moves from here to here, actually even lower than that. Just make sure, position my feet right where they feel comfortable. I keep my gaze looking forward, chin tucked in. I use my hands, okay, to grab the barbell and slightly help me lift the weight up. But obviously the whole movement and the push needs to come from your glutes, remember that, okay? Let's do this. 3, 2, 1, push up. And you want to push all the way up, and then come the way down for your glutes, and then come the way up again. And then roll it back down. Nice and easy. We'll be using to get rid of the weight nice and easy, okay? Let's slide it off. Again, so it's nice and easy, and just slide it off. That's number 1. And number 2, okay? So that leaves us with a base. It's just easier to do one side first. So then you just pull this out. It's probably the hardest bit, but it's not that bad. Okay, on one side, then it's just so much easier to unload the other side. You just remove the clip. Look how easy it is then. Just lift that up, and you get rid of the other plate. I hope this tutorial helped you and understand a little bit more about hip thrust. As always for me, if you want me to be your coach and your trainer, link down below for either my app or one-to-one online coaching. But anyway, I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time with another video.